Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's time to call to order our Riverside County Habitat Conservation Agency Board of Directors meeting this Thursday, February 18th, 2021. The call time is 11:31. And at this time, I'd like to remind everybody to please turn off any other communication devices so that it will not interfere with the rest of us as we're speaking. And we will now move on to item number 2, which is our Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please stand up and join me in Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Okay, I thank everybody. Item 3 is our roll call. Madam Clerk, please call roll call.
Certainly, City of Corona,
Here.
Hemet, Lake Elsinore, Menifee. I see you, ma'am. Thank you.
I'm here. Sorry.
Yes. Moreno Valley, Murrieta,
Here.
Harris,
Here.
Riverside, Temecula, Wildomar,
Here.
County of Riverside,
Here.
and I see Lake Elsinore has just entered the room, as has Hemet.
I'm here.
Thank you, sir. So we that concludes roll call, and we do have quorum.
Thank you. Item 4 is welcoming our new members. This time I'd like to welcome our new board members, Dr. Lisa DeForest from the city of Murrieta and Mr. Tom Richens from the city of Corona. We will allow you to give a brief introduction if you'd like. So Dr. DeForest, you're up if you'd like to make a few comments.
Thank you so much. I'm excited and honored to serve on RCHCA, and as a newly elected, I'm just getting used to the alphabet soup. Although I served 2 terms of school board, so the problem I'm having is the school board is mixing now with city council. So I promise I won't make too many mistakes. At least I'll try. So I'm representing the beautiful city of Murrieta, and I'm looking forward to when we can all meet in person, and I hope that's very soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Richens.
Good morning, one and all. I'm a rookie council person, so take it easy on me, all you old folks. And then Corona, we just broke into districts not too long ago, so I'm the first council person for District 3. And I've heard good things about you RCHCA people, and I'm just here to make sure they're true. So I'm looking forward to being on this board. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Richards, for volunteering for all our subcommittees. All right, item 5 is our public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests?
I have no requests.
Very good. Item 6 is our election of Board of Directors leadership for the year 2021. This will be presented by our Director, Ms. Princess Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, RCHCA Board of Directors, and I'd like to extend a special welcome to our new members. My name is Princess Hester, and I am your Director of Administration, and I am presenting item 6, which is the election of RCHCA Board of Directors leadership for 2021. RCHCA policy addresses the nomination and election of Board of Officers, and RCHCA Board Member Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Menifee, Lisa Sobek, has served in the capacity of Vice Chair for the past year. In accordance with the policy, Board Member Sobek would become Chair for the board in 2021, and the board would hold nominations and elect a new Vice Chair. If in the event that the vice chair is, or the new chair, old vice chair is unwilling or unable to assume the office of chair, then the board can entertain nominations for chair as well as vice chair. And thank you. That concludes my report, and I can answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Princess. Board members, anybody have any comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
So as a chair and a vice chair, what other responsibilities would we have besides attending the quarterly meetings?
Thank you. That's a great question. In addition to the regular meetings that we have, as you know, we're an active board, and there are times when special projects may come up that we might ask for your participation. We will, once we're back to what we define as our new normal, we hold our environmental education outreach programs, and we'd like your attendance sometimes with that. There are times when there are opportunities to get on the ground with our Director of Natural Resources, Brian Shomo, and his team to learn about Stevens kangaroo rat and some of the land management activities that take place in our reserve lands. So we welcome you to participate in that. In addition, we have a strong advocacy program, and we're going to learn more later on in the presentation about our efforts to recover and downlist the Stevens kangaroo rat. And so those responsibilities would include, as chair and vice chair, would be to participate in those advocacy meetings. Right now, everything is virtual. So our meetings with our legislative efforts in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C., we would attend those meetings as well in order to pursue additional legislative efforts for the agency. I'm sorry, stuff popping up on my screen. So those are sort of the responsibilities, but like I said, you know, we're a new, you know, we're an active board. We're always looking for new opportunities. We're working on a public access plan right now for our Still Peak Reserve. So, you know, there will be opportunities for participation, but I would say that they are not overly excessive and definitely not without prior notification.
Anybody else? I don't see anybody frantically waving their hands.
No,
Okay.
sir.
Pardon me?
No, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Are we accepting nominations now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any public comments, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Anybody requesting to speak at this time? Okay. Board members, does anybody have any questions before we open up the nominations? All right, then at this time, I'll entertain a motion for nomination. Anybody?
Now, I was thinking if Wildemar Representative Joseph Marabito might be interested in being the vice chair. I'd like to.
Yes, I would be interested in that.
Okay, Mr. Councilman Manos, did you have a question? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off. I was just curious
Okay.
as whether we had opened up nominations.
All right, so nobody has said it, but I mean, technically you still have to nominate. It doesn't just happen, shouldn't happen automatically. So I suggest I nominate our vice chair, Lisa Lobick, to serve as our chair. And she has suggested Morabito for the vice chair. I would also nominate that as well. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll give you that second.
Okay, second by Member Manos. Anybody else with anything? All right, please call roll call vote.
City of Corona,
Aye.
Hemet,
Aye.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Manistee,
Aye.
Moreno Valley, Murrieta,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside, Temecula, Wildemar,
Yes.
County of Riverside.
Yes.
That concludes the roll call vote and it passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Chair Sobek, Vice Chair Morabito. And at this point, I am going to pass over the gavel to you, Lisa. Good luck.
Oh, thank you.
You're on item number 7.
Well, before we go there, can I just ask if you would like to say any words? I know that I've appreciated working with you and you being chair. You've done a great job. And I got to go to Washington, D.C. with you. It was great. And you've done a just terrific job. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so let's move on to item number 7, the consent and policy calendar. Well, oh, I didn't welcome Joseph. Congratulations to Joseph too, as being the vice chair. Do you want to say anything?
Thank you. Sure, thank you. I look forward to working with you and staff for the whole year.
Okay, great, thank you. So number 7, the consent and policy item. All items listed under the consent and policy calendar are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Prior to the motion, to consider any action by the board, and public comments on any of the consent items will be heard. Does anyone wish to pull a consent item for discussion today? Okay, hearing none. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the consent and policy calendar?
So moved, County Riverside.
I'll second that. Wildemar.
Janice, will you please conduct a roll call?
Certainly. City of Corona,
Aye.
Hammett,
Aye.
Lake Elsinore.
Aye.
Thank you. Menifee,
Aye.
Moreno Valley, Murrieta,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside, Temecula, Wildemar,
Yes.
and County of Riverside. Thank you, sir. That concludes roll call vote for that item, and it passes unanimously.
Thank you, Janice. Okay, we're on to item 8, reports and discussions. It's always our favorite part. So 8A is an update by Princess Hester on staff's efforts and meetings to discuss opportunities regarding species recovery efforts for the Stevens kangaroo rat, or otherwise known as SKR.
Good morning again, and thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Princess Hester. I'm your Director of Administration for the RCHCA, and I'll be presenting item 8A, which is a status update on Stevens kangaroo rat recovery efforts. And so just to recap, we received very exciting news in August of 2020 that the Stevens kangaroo rat was proposed for reclassification from endangered to threatened. So this is a very exciting time for us. And just for informational purposes, there are 3 major category listings for animals and plants under the Endangered Species Act. And SKR is listed as endangered, which is the highest level on the federal side. So a reclassification of a species can only occur when that species is recovered from the critical levels that led to potential extinction of that species. And it requires a demonstration of increased population numbers and a decrease of environmental threats to that species. So we've done a really great job over the years to demonstrate recovery for the species. And so therefore, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has recognized our efforts and is warranting downlisting of the species. So what will happen now is that the comment period for the federal published register closed in October. And so now they will work to incorporate those comments that are warranted into the federal register listing. They are also working to incorporate our habitat suitability model that we developed, which is a great scientific tool to identify the health of the species. In addition to that, they're going to use that habitat suitability model to update their GIS maps. So once that's done, then that rule will publish to the final register, and we will keep you updated and posted on the progress of that publishing. So what's next? We will continue our advocacy efforts and legislative efforts with the wildlife agencies in headquarters in DC and Sacramento. We will work with them and just make sure that we keep our project consistently moving forward as necessary. It's a good time to reach back to them and thank them for their continued support with these efforts, and also to share what we're working on right now, which is the range-wide management and monitoring plan that we're working to complete with our partners in Northern San Diego, which includes the geographic range of the species. And so we'll have some meetings that we'll set up in the spring, and then we'll provide you with some additional information as we get those meetings scheduled. Additionally, I'd like to report that we received our second year funding from the Bureau of Land Management in the amount of $190,000 to support the implementation of this range-wide management and monitoring plan. So the plan has been developed and it's almost in its final stages. We hope to have that final document next month. But then what has to happen is that each one of these entities that manage and monitor for SKR, and we're looking at approximately 30 agencies that monitor and manage for SKR, will then need to, take this plan, adopt it, and implement it into their systems. And so these funds from BLM is going to help us in doing that. They've been a great partner in helping us to achieve some of our recovery goals with SKR. And so we're looking forward to do that. And this is just one more way that the RCHCA is working to achieve the highest demonstrated level for SKR recovery. And thank you. That is my report, and I can answer any questions at this time. You're muted.
I apologize. Crazy Zoom. Anyway, thank you, Princess, for that report. Great news on receiving those funds. Are there any comments from the community at this time? Janice?
I see no requests.
Okay, thank you. So do any of the board members have any questions?
I do, Supervisor Hero does. So we're talking about there's 3 levels of rating for the Endangered Species Act, and we've gone from threatened. We've gone from endangered to threatened. Go ahead, and what's the next level? What's the 3rd level again?
So the next level would be to delist altogether. So then that means that the kangaroo rat has recovered. We have mitigated all of the impacts to threats for the species, and then it would be delisted from the Endangered Species Act. As an agency, it doesn't immediately change everything for us as far as downlisting is concerned. We'll continue to manage the species in perpetuity. We'll continue to manage the land, but that would be the next step in the process.
And number-wise, where are we at there? Does it have to be a certain concrete number of SKRs to hit that? Or is it based upon some other criteria?
Yes, sir. It's based off of, this is where we would include the efforts in northern San Diego County, because we have to demonstrate sustainability of the species across its geographic range. And so this range-wide management and monitoring plan that we're working on is going to provide assistance in doing that. And basically right now, what happens is each one of the agencies that manage or monitor for SKR, they all have their own method. And so this will allow us to standardize that process so that when we get to the point to identify if the species is recovered and using certain criteria in order to demonstrate that, we'll be able to compare apples to apples to show that it's truly happening.
Is one of the criteria determining whether it's genetic makeup is now, vigorous enough to, because again, that probably, the more diversity we have in that, the stronger the species is going to be.
Absolutely. It also includes a genetics component as well.
Okay, thank you, Princess. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hewitt, for that question. I have one, actually. I understand that in the governor's budget that, let me look here, that there has been funding, $1 billion increased last year. Part of the additional funding includes a one-time boost for the Department of Fish and Wildlife for equipment technology. And will we go after any of those funds and try to acquire some of those?
We are going to, as we build our legislative platform for the wildlife agencies this year, we're going to look at opportunities to receive funding to support this range-wide management and monitoring, because the RCHCA has for many years carried a lot of the financial burden in support of this species, right? And so as we look to move forward, this range-wide is crossing jurisdictional boundaries. Like I said, it includes folks in northern San Diego County. It includes some of the military establishments and even some private land that have SKR populations on site. And so our next ask I think right now would be to work with the Wildlife Agency to identify how they can support the implementation of this plan. It's something that, you know, shouldn't 100% be covered by the RCHCA. In addition to that, we're hoping to work with some of those partners that are managing for SKR to support things like Supervisor Hewitt mentioned, you know, the genetic study of the species. And so, you know, this would be the time. For many years we've gone to Fish and Wildlife, and basically our ask has solely been, you know, to support the draft recovery plan, you know, to recognize the efforts that have been done in Western Riverside as far as species recovery. And so this, to me, would be the year where we would start to ask them to, you know, generate some funds in order to help us to further this effort. But
Great.
we'll have more information on that as we get closer to identifying what our asks will be for our legislative platform.
All right, well, they just received a big boost from the governor for one-time funding, so that will be great. I'm not, I can only see like 6 screens because I have the PowerPoint in front of me, so I don't know if anybody else has any questions. You just speak up, okay?
I see no hands raised. I'll help you out with that.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
Thank you again, Princess, for that. We will go to 8B, and it's going to be a presentation by Rihanna Fisher with an update on the public access plan being developed for the Still Peak Reserve.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rihanna Fisher, the staff analyst for RCHCA. I'm presenting item 8B, which is an update on our Still Peak public access plan. So last November, we announced that Still Peak Inaugural Trail final design was completed. Right now, RCHCA is currently in the process of attaining our CEQA evaluation with Ruth Villalobos and Associates. Staff is also in the planning phases for designing the interpretive signage and amenities for the trail that will incorporate the historical significance of the area. We are collaborating with locals who have been in the area for generations to gather research to incorporate into the signage. And we are also on schedule for a March 2022 completion date. And short but brief, that concludes my update on the Still Peak Public Access Plan. This is a receive and file. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rihanna. This is really exciting news. And I know we have 2 new board members and they may not be aware of how exciting this is. But it is great news. So do any members of the public have any questions or comments at this time?
I see no requests.
Thank you, Janice. Do any board members have any questions or comments on this for Rihanna?
Board member DeForest has her hand raised.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Where is the Steel Peak Trail? I don't mean to be ignorant, but if you could elaborate where that is.
Certainly, it's in an unincorporated area of Riverside County, and it's a small community. I'm not sure of the population. I don't have the demographics in front of me. I don't know, Princess, you remember what the demographics were?
Not the demographics, but it's the community of Good Hope. And in that community, there is a community center there that's supported by Supervisor Jeffrey's district. This is an underserved community and would greatly benefit from having the opportunity of recreation in the area. We identified this area because we spend a lot of time removing, and dealing with the effects of illegal dumping, trespass, et cetera. And so therefore it becomes almost detrimental to the habitat. And so basically what we decided is that, even though that these lands were set aside once for conservation in efforts to keep people out, one of the greater benefits for us to do at this time would be to identify a new process. And that process would include allowing for some passive recreation so that we can maybe create some appreciation for these lands. And so we would make sure to, maintain the sensitive habitat, but at the same time, allow the community to enjoy these lands in hopes that it will improve the ability for the lands to be better off as a result of it. And so last year, we received a grant from the California Natural Resources Agency. Those funds, in approximately $600,000, will come in this year to support the implementation of the trail in the area. Our Director of Natural Resources, Brian Shomo, has also identified some funding opportunities for California Conservation Corps that's going to assist in the development of this trail. And we're working with our partners partner, which is Department of Waste Resources, they have the landfill that's directly adjacent to the trail. They're going to allow us to use their area as parking to support parking for this trail. And so it's just a great opportunity to provide some positive recreation for an area that doesn't have a lot of it.
Thank you so very much.
And Board Member Vargas has his hand raised.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, Dr. DeForest, it's in the unincorporated area of Paris, and it's north of the Highway 74 and east of Paris Boulevard, to kind of give you that general idea. And Good Hope has a little more than 9,000 residents, plus the 80,000 that's over here in Paris. And we do have a lot of hikers out here between Paris and Menifee and our other neighboring cities. This is a really exciting project to add to our region. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions?
I see no hands raised.
Thank you, Janice. And I do see Marianne Edwards just joined us. So welcome, Mayor Edwards.
Thank you. I
Um,
apologize. I was in another Zoom.
Okay, this is a receive and file. So we will go on to item C. Item C is a presentation by Rihanna Fisher again, with a presentation on innovative practices developed and employed by the RCHCA to help the land management and monitoring within the SKR reserve system. Today, topics may include technological advancements, innovative research, and creative solutions to complex problems. So we'll turn it back over to you, Rihanna.
Thank you again. Again, I'm Rihanna Fisher, the staff analyst for RCHCA, presenting on item 8C for RCHCA Innovation. So annually, Western Riverside County spends millions of dollars combating non-native weeds to reduce catastrophic wildfires, maintain our road shoulders, and enhance habitat for species listed under the Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Plan. RCHCA uses land management techniques to reduce these invasive weeds in Riverside County, their open space areas, to support species recovery and reduce the regulatory burden on development projects within the subregion. However, reducing the transmission of new invasive plants and amongst open space areas is challenging because of the ongoing maintenance activities of public works departments and water, gas, and electric utilities. So RCHCA staff created an invasive species management calendar to assist regional reserve managers and public works departments in a cooperative approach to combat these plants that may reduce the fire fuel loads and infrastructure operation and maintenance costs, while also enhancing the habitats to reduce the regulatory burden on future development projects. So this calendar is a tool to coordinate management actions for treating invasive species throughout the region, and will display the invasive plant's life cycle and recommended management treatment for each month of the year. The calendar is still in development, but here's just an example of what it will look like, and it will be available on the RCHCA website. And that concludes my presentation on item 8C, the report on RCHCA innovation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rihanna. Do any members of the public have any questions or comments, Janice?
I have no requests.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions or comments?
I see no hands raised.
Okay. All right. Love the calendar idea. This is great. We've needed to work with our partners to you know, get them to do their part to stop spreading the weeds. So this will be great. So this is also a receive and file. So we will go on to item D, 8D, educational outreach program and activities update. This is again by Rihanna. So we're ready for your report.
Thanks once again, Rihanna Fisher, staff analyst for RCHCA. I'm presenting on item 8D, a report on our educational outreach program. So each year, RCHCA holds an Endangered Species Day event at one of our reserves to increase awareness of threatened and endangered species in Western Riverside County. However, due to COVID, our educational program looked a bit different in as we went virtual. In December, RCHCA presented a virtual education webinar in collaboration with the Energy Coalition and EcoHero to grades 4 through 8 from 4 different schools in the region. We had a theme of recycling, and staff did a presentation on the harmful effects that balloon trash has on wildlife. Other topics included repurposing trash into art, oil recycling, and we had fun and interactive polls with songs and activities to engage the students. Additionally, RCHCA has established the agency's nonprofit, the Riverside Communities Partnership Project, or RCPP. Through the RCPP, staff will be able to expand our ability to provide a wide range of service learning opportunities throughout the subregion, such as wildland fire suppression, vegetation management, and wildlife habitat restoration later in 2021. And that concludes my presentation on item 8D, Educational Outreach Program. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you again, Rihanna. Janice, do we have any public questions or comments?
I have none.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments by board members?
Vice Chair Morbido has his hand raised.
Okay.
I couldn't find the virtual hand raise. So anyway, now that I went virtual learning, can you give me like an honest assessment of how it probably went? Because I did have a chance to go out to some of the live events the year before, and the kids really benefited from those. So I'd be interested in what you think of how the virtual.
Thank you. We did get some feedback from the instructors, the students, that they really enjoyed the presentation. In fact, our own resource director, Brian Shomo's daughter, was one of the students that attended, and she also really enjoyed it as well. So overall, it did went well. The activity helped a lot, how they had an interactive activity where they actually did some trash art during it. So I think that enforces learning as well.
Great. Any other questions?
Board Member Brown.
Yes, thank you, Rihanna. Just a question, looking downrange on these educational outreach programs, is there a calendar or forecast of topics that will be addressed in the future?
We don't have one at this time. We are seeking feedback from the instructors on what they would like us to see do, but as far as right now, we don't have anything planned. The virtual event was new and everyone was still getting used to it. We are hoping to go back out to the reserves, hopefully later in 2021 if COVID is no longer there. And then some of the last year we did some just the endangered species of like habitat learning. So the students would do like a circle where they, Princess, yeah, what is the name of the game?
We have a very robust educational outreach program, and when we're able to be in person, what we do is we build our lessons on the next generation science standards, which actually helps the teachers reinforce those lessons in the classroom. And we have several, hands-on lesson plans. For example, we use a project that utilizes musical chairs where it's called Last But the Least, and students are identified as certain habitats. And as those habitats are lost through musical chairs, we talk about the effects of why their habitat was lost, as a result of pollution or other things. And so what we're looking to do right now, I have to tell you that the virtual was just okay. It's nothing like being on the ground with the kids, seeing the expressions in their faces, seeing them connect to certain things that we talk about. And so we're really looking forward to getting back out and being able to entertain those children, face to face. But again, due to COVID guidelines, we're probably as far out as maybe next year, 2022, before the students actually come back to school. But we're hoping that when they do come back, we've identified some additional locations where we can host these events and potentially serve more students than we did before, because locations will be more spread out throughout our region. So we're really looking forward to it, but This year, I think for the rest of 2021, definitely we're going to be in the virtual world, and we'll work to try to fine tune those connections with the teachers and the students as much as possible, and in hopes of having our program back online in 2022.
Yeah, thank you, Princess. And I appreciate, I think we're all anxious to get back in the field again.
Yes.
And I would imagine that musical chairs variation really helps them identify, because when the music stops and they don't have a chair to sit in, that means they've lost their environment. And I think that really helps illustrate the consequence. So thank you for being creative in that.
Thank you. And I would encourage everyone to take a look at our website. Under our education and program section, we have videos from prior events, and you can get an opportunity to actually see the kids and listen to some of the presenters to talk about not just the importance of doing this type of education, environmental education, but also their experiences as they've gone through our program over the years. So I encourage you to take a look at the website and see the past videos.
Thank you. Any other comments or
Board-
questions?
Board Member Edwards.
Edwards?
Good morning, or it's good afternoon now, I guess. I would just like to chime in. I work for the Temecula Valley Unified School District, and I am the district coordinator for family and community engagement. And I can tell you that, we're still in that prohibition, the color that prohibits schools from going back right now. And the requirements are pretty stiff, even though they're going down. They're pretty stiff to make the requirements to be able to go back to school. When we start, it'll be elementary school, and we're already in February, mid-February, headed towards March. So the chances of schools getting back, it's still very iffy. But I can tell you from a teacher perspective, and yes, I definitely agree that in-person, that nothing substitutes for in-person classroom teaching. I mean, that's very obvious now. So the teachers do appreciate any opportunity they have, especially from a live agency like this. We aren't just some talking head that's done some homework online coming in talking about a subject. I mean, our RCHCA knows its stuff, and we have a great track record. So they really appreciate that. And the games are excellent tools for teaching elementary and, to some degree, even middle schoolers, but you have to be careful when you have middle schoolers fighting over a seat, especially in the current environment. So I applaud you for keeping the education program alive, and just know that the teachers in the schools really do appreciate it. And we can't wait to get back to school either.
Thank you, Marianne. Janice, any others?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate all those comments and questions. And thank you, Princess and Rihanna, for that presentation. I would encourage, especially the new board members who aren't aware of it, when we do go out and do the field trips or do these education, please try to attend, because they're very educational and really help you learn more about the plan. So we are going to move on to E, and contract land management and monitoring. And this is by Brian Shamiro. And he will be making his presentation today on the various tasks associated with the RCHC contracted land management activities.
Thank you. Again, my name is Brian Shemo with the RCHCA. I'm the Director of Natural Resources. Item 8F is an update on the land management and monitoring contracts held by the RCHCA. And just for some new board member education and why we do this, the RCHCA is often approached by other conservation land managers. We've developed a reputation over the years of doing very successful, very innovative land management at a very cost-effective price on a scale that's conducive to changing the status quo. Instead of continuing to watch species decline, we have been active in promoting their increasing populations, increasing habitat availability and whatnot. So they come to us and we contract with them, and that additional revenue offsets our fee revenue that we get in. And so then we have a little extra money to kind of do the SKR recovery efforts, research, and other similar projects that we've done over the years to fulfill our requirements of the SKR HCP, but also go above and beyond and help recover the species. So with that being said, next slide. In 2019, as Princess said earlier, we received a substantial contract from the Bureau of Land Management. It was a one-year contract worth about $600,000 with an optional 4-year extension, or an extension of every year for 4 years, at about $190,000 in each of those option years. This year, we received that. Some of that money will go towards the SKR recovery efforts. Some of that was used most recently to purchase about 100 acres of SKR preferred forage material. We plant that in a checkerboard fashion, so we kind of make it go pretty far, and then hopefully it naturally fills in those blank squares per se. And then we get a lot of more bang for our buck. However, due to the lack of rainfall this year, I think we've only received about 3.5 inches so far. We chose not to throw it out. It would have probably went to waste. It would have probably rotted. Probably could have fed some kangaroo rats, to be quite honest, but we're not interested in, having an artificial environment. We want it to germinate. We don't want to pretend we're in a terrarium and just throwing food in there every day. So we want to keep it. It won't go bad. We have it in storage, and we'll put it out there in the subsequent years. That being said, we do want to spend the money that the BLM has contracted in with us. And so we're proposing to do a substantial fencing operation of the eastern boundary of the Lake Matthews Reserve. Currently, that area of the Gavilan Plateau is frequented by off-road vehicle activity. The boundary is very limited in signage or fencing of any kind. And so we're going to use a portion of the funding from the BLM to do a survey and then put in about 3 miles of additional fencing along the eastern boundary. Other funding available through that contract will hopefully sponsor some research. We are in talks with the San Diego Zoo's Institute of Conservation Research to identify ways of developing linkages and corridors for SKR to use to basically fulfill extirpated areas where the population has declined. So you have a good source population over here, and in the next valley over, they are extirpated, they are no longer found. How do you get them over there without doing an expensive active translocation? And can we create corridors, maybe thin out some of the vegetation? Maybe how wide do they have to be? How long can they be? How long do they have to live in there, or can they do it in one continuous dispersal? So different topics that will come in handy in the future. The other thing we have is the Mariposa Waste Management, Inc. This is the landfill, the El Sobrante landfill, right up here off the 15. They contract with us for small activities. This year, small mammal activities, herpetological, reptile, amphibian type surveys they need, and riparian restoration. As part of the landfill's expansion plans, they typically impact other habitats. They need 1600 and 404 permits from the Army Corps of Engineers and CDFW to impact riparian corridors. They've been unsuccessful in the past with other contractors. They've approached us, they've seen some of our work, and we're going to perform some of those biological and restoration activities for them this year. One of our larger contracts is with the Metropolitan Water District. We're contracted with them to do their on-site land management monitoring for about 65 species here at Lake Matthews. We proposed a budget of about $152,000 this last year. In addition to that contract, we have to propose certain task orders, certain things that we have to do throughout the year in order to achieve that $152,000 worth of revenue. Again, because of the lack of precipitation, those things we proposed in July probably won't come to fruition. So what we're doing is amending the current annual work plan, revising the task orders to take advantage of the funding opportunity, but also to provide services that can be performed without the rainfall. For instance, your SKR surveys. Last time it was done here, I think it was 2015. So it'll be a good update to see what's happening on MWD's land. Again, another reptile survey and additional security fencing and signage along their property as well. Next slide. The other thing that's wrapping up this year is we received a U.S. Department of Agriculture, NRCS, a Natural Resource Conservation Service grant. That grant was to basically restore some riparian habitat above Lake Street in northern Lake Elsinore. What happened was there's a large reed, you see it in the Santa Ana watershed a lot. It's called Arundo donax, giant wild reed. It takes over an area, excludes all kind of native habitat within that area, sucks up a lot of water, and the streams dry up. And we received a grant to basically remove that, to restore it in the second year, and then we have to maintain a certain threshold of survivability of those plants in the third year. So we just recently planted that. We currently, for the last couple months, have almost 100% survival. We feel that the NRCS will be signing off on that shortly, and we'll receive the final funding for that, which is about $10,000 in year 3. And so we expect them to sign off by year end. And then finally, the California Conservation Corps, we applied for funding in November of last year, I believe. We received one of the largest grants within the state of California. It was $275,000. This went towards fire fuel management and also species protection, restore wetlands, and reduce those fire fuels. Fire is a big thing in our area now. We manage a lot of open space. We want to do our part to protect those residents that are adjacent to the wildlands that we manage. And so this grant then reduced a lot of the non-native brush. It has created fire breaks and fuel lines while also creating SKR habitat and restoring our riparian areas. This is the third and final phase is due to end in mid-March here. They're currently working in a riparian area, removing a lot of non-native brush that acts as ladder fuels. It gets up into those higher trees like the sycamore and the oaks. And once they remove those middle to lower understory trees, they'll go back and revegetate that and install a passive irrigation system to supplementally water those native plants that should naturally be there and that are a little bit more fire resistant in those areas. And that next slide concludes the presentation. This is a receive and file, but I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions from the public or comments?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Brian. You always do a wonderful job on your reports too. And just love always what you share in your knowledge. So do we have any questions or comments from any board member?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, well, thank you very much again, Brian. We will move to item F, Stevens Kangaroo Rat Reserve Management and Monitoring Efforts Activity Update by Harry Sandoval.
Hi, good afternoon. Harry Sandoval, Natural Resource Manager with the RCHCA. Today I'm going to go over 8F, SKR Reserve Management and Monitoring. Next slide, please. We're going to start off outside of our planned area here in San Diego. Princess mentioned earlier that SKR recovery is going to be dependent upon what happens in northern San Diego County. Recently, the Endangered Habitats Conservancy acquired about 955 acres just across from the Ramona grasslands. And they asked the RCHCA to go down and help with their management plan. They're currently developing a management plan for the management of these newly acquired acres. And they asked us to go down there and take a look. So Brian and I went down there and provided some input on management activities, best management practices to try and reestablish the kangaroo rat on that property. So an interesting thing about this property, it was completely slated for development. There is parcel maps and tract maps already developed, approved. They just never got around to doing it. Eventually, this property was purchased by the Endangered Habitats Conservancy in cooperation with the U.S. Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Next slide, please. So this property at the Montecito Ranch is going to be vital to the recovery of the SKR. It's going to connect a population. There currently doesn't seem to be SKR on this property, but there is SKR just adjacent to this property on the Ramona grasslands. Eventually, the plan is, with the management input from the RCHCA, that SKR will be reestablished, and there is a possibility that a translocation plan will be utilized to bring in some SKR. That translocation plan was developed by the San Diego Zoo in collaboration with the RCHCA in the past. So we're hoping and very excited about the possibility of actually using that plan to reestablish SKR within this area that was slated for development. So it's a great news for the recovery of the species in that area. Next slide, please. An update, some of you may know that for a while now we've been working on putting some conservation easements over some of the riparian and riverine drainages that we have here at Lake Matthews. A little background on that, we have riparian resources here at Lake Matthews. Our HCP does not cover those. The SKR HCP does not cover those or provide any funding to either repair or reestablish or maintain those drainages. With that, we try to get creative and come up with a solution to get some funding or to try and restore those drainages. The Riverside County Department of Waste Resources is currently going through an expansion of the Badlands landfill. And as part of their expansion, they're going to impact some riparian and riverine resources, which they need to mitigate because of the Western Riverside County Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan, and also because of the impacts to California Department of Fish and Wildlife waterways, also U.S. Waters of the U.S. as well. With that knowledge, we came up with a solution where we would actually place easements over our drainages here and sell those easements to the county waste. These drainages are mitigation for drainages in Western Riverside County are getting extremely difficult to find, and if they are found, they're very expensive. So in this way, we now help out the county by giving them a good deal on these easements, and they are able to carry out their expansion activities. So next slide, please. So here you can see the drainages that we are putting easements over. We recently got approval from the Army Corps of Engineers. We did a jurisdictional delineation over about 30 acres of the drainages that we have here at Lake Matthews. We just got concurrence from the Army Corps of Engineers, so we are good to go with that. We can move further along in the process now. And just recently, we had engineers from the Riverside County Department of Waste Resources. We were out together and trying to formalize the grading plans to see what this area is going to look like in the future. So we're excited about that. We're going to restore hydrology back to its native form. For those of you that don't know, this Lake Matthews here was a very large agricultural operation before it was an SKR reserve. So there is a lot of impacts to the riparian and riverine features here on this property. What we're doing here with the county waste is we're going to restore those back to the way they've looked essentially before man disturbed these areas. Over time, we hope that they'll look very nice. We're going to some of this will involve revegetation of these drainages. Others will be simple, just weed control or keeping down invasive species and the restoration of hydrology. So it's going to be a big change, and we're all excited about what things are coming in the future with that. Next slide, please. Another management activity that occurred here at Lake Matthews was in cooperation with the BLM. There is a control line for a fire that was carried out. It was about 100-foot wide, and it surrounded about 60 acres. Now, we use fire a lot here at Lake Matthews, and also in the overall in general, fire is a good tool for the management of SKR and other species. So this helps us with also fuel reduction. So we essentially created a 100-foot buffer around a 60-acre ring or a 60-acre kind of area. And that's in preparation of another larger burn. Now, these are very technical burns. We surround all the good or habitat that we don't want to get burned. We surround that, clear all the grass and everything around it so it doesn't get damaged. And we try to balance out to optimize SKR habitat there as well. I know Brian mentioned it earlier. We bought some seed. I'm sorry, I'm moving ahead here. I was looking at the wrong numbers here. We did mow in conjunction with the burning there. We also did mow 50 acres along some residential areas that we have around our fence line here. We have houses really close to our property, and so we always make sure that we clear the brush there and reduce the fuels. That also is beneficial for SKR since they like about a 50% grass cover and 50% dirt, so that helps us out a lot. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also carried out some management of burrowing owl artificial habitat. So we have artificial nest sites set out within the reserve here, and these help we try to get burrowing owls to establish themselves on the reserve. It's also one of the Western Riverside County MSHCP objectives here. So we manage for SKR primarily, but we also try to take a holistic approach, and we try to maintain the ratio of predators and prey here. So burrowing owl is an important resource to have here. So these artificial burrows are covered by large mounds of dirt. They all get dug out, they get cleaned out, and this time the passageways into those burrows are repositioned, and we're hoping that the new positioning helps attract and keep the owls in there, and we hope that they will actually use these more and successfully reproduce in the future here with the modifications that we've made. And the final thing, what I was alluding to earlier, is we bought approximately 50 acres of seed before mix. As Brian said earlier, our precipitation hasn't been what we anticipated or what we really need to get the seed in the ground. So we were waiting, and we have the seed available and ready for future projects as well. Next slide. That concludes the presentation. I will be happy to answer any questions if there are any out there.
Thank you, Harry. So first of all, we'll ask if there's any questions or comments from our public.
No, there are not.
Okay, thank you, Janice. And how about board members? Do we
Board
have any
member
questions?
Edwards has her hand raised.
Thank you. I was just wondering, is this the first movement we've seen in North San Diego County? Princess, since you and I went to Sacramento, or have they been busy?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, there has been a lot of activity. And if you can recall, the military establishments has always actively managed for SKR. And so,
yes, thank goodness for that.
right, one of the things that we wanted to do was, as part of this process, we wanted to be sure to include the efforts that they're doing and also some of the efforts on the other areas. But since that time, there has been some additional movement in the northern San Diego area. And now it's really great because they're reaching out, to Brian and obtaining, his expertise in managing these lands. And so it just demonstrates the progress that we've made.
Yes.
The establishment of this range-wide management and monitoring implementation team, I'm not aware that anything like this has been done in our area. And so this is going to be a great opportunity for us to get together with all of those agencies that manage for SKR, because that's the only way we could actually do a demonstration to be able to
Right.
correctly identify if the species is recovered in order to be able to move forward. So yeah,
Okay.
so a lot of activity has happened this past year.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well, see what happens when you're gone for a year or two.
Right. And
That's
I'd
great.
like also just to add that without the funding that we received from BLM, this would not be possible. So those funds
right.
offered us, allowed us to be able to enter into an agreement with Conservation Biology Institute, who is facilitating and writing the plan, and then also with the conservation research to assist with the genetic portion of it. So yeah, a lot of
that's great. That's great. I'm very encouraged then. Thank you. And Brian, good luck.
Member Edwards, I just want to add to that, and it kind of ties in with what Madam Chair Sobek was talking about, alternative funding sources. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to speak with my DoD counterparts at Detachment Fallbrook and also at Camp Pendleton. And part of that Montecito Ranch project, the $9 million of funding was provided by the Marine Corps REPI program. That stands for Readiness and Environmental Protection Integration. It basically buys off-site mitigation in order to free up training areas on the installations.
Great.
What he was saying is that if we're really interested in recovery, and Fish and Wildlife was on the phone at the same time, they have the opportunity to provide millions of dollars going forward to aid in the monitoring acquisitions if it relieves any kind of regulatory burden on those installations as far as limiting training opportunities. So it's something that the implementation part of the regional recovery plan and monitoring plan that we're developing, we'll take a serious look at and hopefully receive some DoD funding going forward. As Princess said, RCHCA has basically been funding this the entire time. But with the
yes, that's
funding
true.
and that push coming from them, I think we'll see some really large leaps coming our way as far as SKR recovery in the near future. So,
well, that's fabulous. And you remember, we've got friends at Fish and Game in Sacramento. So that's terrific. I'm very encouraged.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments?
I see no additional hands raised.
Okay, I just have one. How long will those seeds last in storage? That was quite a bit that was purchased.
They can last probably 10, 15 years in
Okay.
storage. In California, they're designed to lay on those ground in the hot summers and through the wet winters and never germinate. And then you get the conditions right and they sprout. What we've seen though in the past, since we're kind of broadcast seeding a pretty good, we're going about 30 pounds per acre of seed. Typically the birds all move in, the rodents, all eat it and everything, and nothing is left to germinate. In nature, there's quite a lot less. It's not such a feeding frenzy. And we're hopeful in the future to use it more in a better wet year that it all germinates, and then we don't have to supply this government assisted food source. So
Okay, well, thank you for that. And thank you for all the presentations, 8A through F. Those were all received and filed today. So we will move on now to item number 9. Rick Bishop is our city manager's report. Not city manager, general manager.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations on your election, and also to Councilmember Morabito for the vice chair position. I know Mayor Vargas left, but I also wanted to acknowledge he just did a stellar job leading the agency for 2 years and really helped move us toward the downlisting of the species. So can't do these things without great elected official support. So thank you for that. Also just wanted to mention, in case you didn't know, this will be my last meeting as your general manager. I'm retiring in March. Tough decision to make, but it's always good to kind of move on and see what other challenges come my way. But I wanted to say, and I hope you get the feeling based on the staff reports, that with Princess and Brian and Harry and maybe some of the staff you don't know, Scott and Francisco, who are out at the reserve in the field, Rihanna, our newest hire, Aaron Geddes, our legal counsel, of course, Janice from WRCOG, who puts things together along with Susie. You're in really, really good hands, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some great things and some results. I'm hoping to be part of the actual downlisting celebration, and I also hope to be invited to the opening of the Steel Peak Reserve public access trail. That will be really good, and hopefully that will lead into the ability to create some public access to other RCHCA lands and hopefully RCA lands as well. So it's a big example. Also wanted to mention Councilmember Manos. Can't thank you enough for approaching me several years ago, even though I did have some trepidation at first about this movement of the RCHCA under the administrative umbrella of WRCOG, but you're a good convincer, and I'm glad that we were able to do it. And I think, and I hope that you all believe that the goals of that consolidation have all been met with regard to cost savings, cost effectiveness, and some movement forward. So it's been a real pleasure to serve you on this board. You're in really great hands with great leadership at the board level and also at the staff level. So I just wanted to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rick. You're going to be missed. I don't know, is there any hands up at this moment?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll tell you, if I can jump in just real quick. Thanks for mentioning that. I genuinely appreciate, and I've said this a couple of times in a couple of different meeting arenas, but I have a profound amount of respect for the work that you've done over the stretch of your career. Your words and pearls of wisdom were always well taken, especially with an elected official. I was very young. I was very impressed with you right from the get-go, and you're right. I think this organization is better thanks to having dovetailed it with WRCOG, and I don't know how WRCOG is going to replace you, quite frankly. So well-deserved retirement. Thank you very much for your service, sir, and I hope we run into each other and have an adult beverage sometime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manos, for your words. You know what, I was thinking about this too, and I'm going to say some words at the end, but you know, Riverside County is better off because you were here in the leadership of WRCOG. So you've made quite a difference in all of our cities in this county. So if there's no other comments, we're going to move to item number 10, items for the future agendas. Is there any request for future agenda items?
I see no hands.
Thank you, Janice. So under general announcements, do any board members have any general announcements that they would like to announce today? If not, I have a couple that I would like to share. Okay, number one is in honor of the progress of the downlisting Stevens kangaroo rat, we have prepared a small gift of appreciation for the board members with a memento consisting of the RCHCA patch and picture of the reserve lands. I'd like to note that staff member Scott Curry, I'm sad he's not here, open space habitat technician, designed both the patch and the background pictures. Staff are working to mail the gift to each board member. Do we have a picture of that?
Yes, we do. The picture.
I don't have it.
Okay, I thought it was in the presentation.
Well, then it's going to be a surprise.
Yeah, no, it's right here.
It is, Princess, but it's in the other thing.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Okay, all right. Well, then let me make this one other statement. Okay. In honor of Rick's retirement and on behalf of the RCHCA Board of Directors, I'd like to present Rick with a proclamation, and I so wish we could be in person, honoring his 20 years plus years of service with WRCOG's Executive Director and 3 years as RCHCA's General Manager. This proclamation is to recognize and honor Rick for the outstanding service the Riverside County Habitat Agency. So I'd like to just share with you these beautiful words. Whereas in December of 2015, Rick Bishop became the Executive Director of the Riverside County Habitat Conservation at the agency, a joint powers authority consisting of 10 cities and the County of Riverside. And whereas Rick Bishop was instrumental in continuing the success of the RCHCA, beginning with establishing a framework at advocacy, engaging Congress leaders and the wildlife agencies to recognize the efforts made primarily by the RCHCA in Western Riverside County to recover the endangered Stevens kangaroo rat. Whereas under Rick Bishop's leadership in August of 2020, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service published a proposed rule to the Federal Register recommending downlistings for the Stevens kangaroo rat from endangered to threatened. Whereas Rick Bishop is a pioneer, establishing the first ever public access plan for conserved lands, creating the Still Peak inaugural trail in the community of Good Hope, located in the unincorporated Riverside County. Whereas Rick Bishop has always eagerly supported environmental education and stewardship in the community. Therefore, be it resolved that on this day, February 18th, 2021, the Riverside County Habitat Conservation Agency recognizes and honors Rick Bishop for his outstanding accomplishments and public leadership. And I just want to say thank you, Rick. And I wish you the best in your retirement. It's a fun time. It's a good time. My husband retired just 2 years ago after 43 years of hard work in his industry. And I know that you are going to enjoy those new grandbabies and enjoy time with your wife and family. And we will miss you, but we wish you all the best.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. And it's been my honor and privilege to serve you. And like I said, look forward to great things. You can tell you've got a great team and you're on a roll with all the great conservation management techniques and everything that's going on in the agency. It's going to be fun to watch it continue to lead.
Thank you. We will miss you.
We have a
Board-
I'm sorry.
Board Member Edwards has her hand raised.
Okay, Marianne.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm so sorry that we can't be there in person, Rick. somehow I've managed to be on, WRCOG's alternate list for about 12 years and was gone, right after RCHCA moved. So you and I haven't really gotten to work together all that much, but your reputation precedes you. You've done a stellar job with everything, RCHCA now, and WRCOG. So thank you for everything you've done. And I can tell you from experience, Tom is not Tom Edwards, Dr. Tom anymore. He is Squire Edwards now, retired. So he spends his days lording over the manor and loves every minute of it. So hopefully I wish all the best and the same to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And do we have any other comments, or do we have that picture you want to show?
Yes, we actually have a video.
Okay.
Have Rihanna take it away from here. There's the screen of the plaque that's going out to everyone. We don't have sound, so we were cursed by the Zoom gods again. Because we don't have sound. But just a few momentous activities through the years.
You really get around, Princess. You too, Rick.
That's going way back.
Way
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy retirement.
That happy retirement, Rick.
That's
Thank
nice.
you. We should have had some K-Rat singing in the background, or the I proposed a few days ago. I proposed that we'd have a K-Rat marching band come out right now and give you some pomp and circumstance, but the Zoom guys got our sound again. So, but it's been a great pleasure, and I'm just really excited. I know everybody on staff is very excited about all the things we've been able to accomplish, and it's just been an awesome time. So, yeah, that'll make.
Hey, pleasure's been mine, Princess and team. You guys know that.
There we are.
Yay!
Yay. Yay. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Princess and Janice and all the board members. I know we went a little over today, so we are going to adjourn. It is 12:43 and our next meeting is Thursday, May 20th at 11:30, and it will be a Zoom format. Everyone have a great day.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you all.